Good evening, YouTube. And now we're going to get right into this here in a second. But the game is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, the arcade game. And this was an NES port of the original arcade game. And I think it has an extra level added, snow level. And a lot of people consider this one just a shitty arcade port, but it was and forever will be one of my favorite NES games. Now, I used to be pretty good at this game, but I never managed to beat it because unlike the direct port of the arcade game on Xbox Live Arcade a few years back, there were no unlimited continues in this version. You lose all your lives and then you start over. And I used to play this bastard of a game before school in the mornings, after school in the evenings, basically any time I could. And I can still remember riding home in the car the night I got it. And I had the box open and I was trying to read the manual and the lights from a restaurant as we went through the drive-thru. And there was a Pizza Hut coupon in the box as well. I can still remember that. So this is a very nostalgic game for myself. But anyway, first I want to address Fat Gamer and his claim that Sony is in the financial shitter, and the hedge fund manager who suggested Sony split its electronics and entertainment divisions wanted to kill off the PlayStation brand. And he's half right. Sony is in the financial shitter, and they have been for quite some time. But that's really no front page news to anyone, or at least it shouldn't be. Yes, they made a $480-something million profit last fiscal year, but they had to sell 2 office buildings and cash in a shitload of stock to do it. And they had not done these things, and had they not done these things, then they'd have again posted a significant loss. And let's be real here. Something has to change, because Sony can't afford many more billion-dollar losses because their debts are damn close to exceeding their assets. I believe the value of the company, assets minus debts, is somewhere between 11 and 15 billion, which is still huge, but only a fraction of the value of the Sony from, say, 10 years ago. But again, this is all public information. Sony's been on the ropes for years. Nothing is terribly shocking here. What Fat Gamer is wrong about, however, is that the suggestion to split Sony up means keep the good half and throw the bad half away. First of all, this is some complicated, intricate shit that I'm going to get into, but as I understand it, Daniel Loeb, who owns 6.5% of Sony, which I believe that equates to $1.1 billion, has suggested that the company divest 15 to 20% of its entertainment division, which is comprised of its music, movies, and music publishing businesses. Although the PlayStation brand falls under the subsidiary of Sony Computer Entertainment, it's considered part of the electronics business. Now, what this most likely means is that Sony would split its businesses and Sony Electronics would trade under the same ticker symbol it always has, and the entertainment division would spin off into a separate holding company that would be publicly traded separately, at which point Sony would sell off 15 to 20% of its shares in the new holding company and maintain 80% control over it, and have the benefit of the additional capital from selling those shares to invest in its electronics division, and that would allow it to restructure itself in such a way as to narrow its focus and become more profitable. And I'll read you a bit of Loeb's letter to CEO Kaz Hirai, and this is from GameSpot.com. When he mentions we here, he is referencing his hedge fund, Third Point. And I quote, "Sony has stood for innovative engineering and consumer satisfaction for decades. From televisions to gaming consoles to handsets, Sony epitomizes the proud legacy of the Japanese manufacturing ingenuity, superior product design, and excellent user experience. However, many casual observers would be surprised to learn that while Sony is electronics, much of its current value is derived from a hidden gem, Sony's entertainment division. Like many conglomerates we invested in previously, Sony has 2 strong businesses facing different challenges side by side, each obscuring each other's true worth, or each obscuring the other's true worth. To maximize Sony's overall success, we believe the company should change the structure of its ownership of Sony Entertainment. Doing so will strengthen Sony by reducing its burdensome debt, thereby providing additional resources and capital to focus on revitalizing the resurgent Sony electronics. Now, why does he believe this could boost stock prices by 60%? And because of something called the Q ratio, which is calculated by dividing the total market capitalization of a company's stock by the total replacement value of its assets. And market cap is the dollar value of the total number of outstanding shares a company has. That is, shares that have been sold or issued or purchased, not counting those held by the company itself, which those shares have no rights essential to them. In short, a high Q ratio is good, while a low Q ratio shows a lack of investor confidence, and market researchers found on average that more diverse companies have lower Q ratios. From MarketWatch.com, I quote again, this valuation measure enabled researchers to make a profound discovery. Most or more diversified companies, on average, have lower Q ratios than firms that are more focused on one business purpose. This tendency has become known as the diversification discount. One way of appreciating what this discount means in practice: when two unrelated companies merge, chances are that the newly created whole is worth less than the sum of the two previously separate parts. And when a larger company splits unrelated divisions into separate companies, odds are that those newly created firms will be worth more than the previous company. It's also worth noting that according to MarketWatch, he is also pressing Sony to sell off its Sony Financial division. Now, I don't quite understand why, since it is profitable, and profit is what Sony needs, but I'll take this guy's word for it, considering he is the billionaire hedge fund owner and I'm not. Either way you slice it, there is no negative implication toward the PlayStation brand other than the fact that the console sales are down 12% over last year according to the Wall Street Journal. But we're 7 years into the life cycle of the PlayStation 3, and the PlayStation 4 has been announced already. I mean, what do you really expect? Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't expect sales of the PS3 to pick up on that news. But, and if you found this boring, you have my apologies, and let me know in the comments below, because honestly, there is a fine line between snooze fest and interesting analysis, but this kind of thing is what I am best at, and I don't see a ton of other people doing that, or doing this, or at least doing it very well. And I could review the shit out of some game like Defiance that I've put 80 hours into over the past month, but there are a ton of people doing reviews, and I think that industry discussion is much more interesting than a review a month and a half after the fact. I was going to include a Vita discussion in this video, but I need to cut it a little bit short because I've let this discussion go on a little bit too long. And I don't want to make a 20 to 25 minute video on the matter. But I have a quick topic series that I plan to do weekly starting tomorrow, where I round up the most interesting topics in the community or in the gaming media that are worth mentioning but not worth an in-depth discussion, and give a few short thoughts on them. So I'll try to get a Vita discussion in on Saturday. But that's all from me for right now.